Mr. Mack-Poole, 3-minute history, the Russian Civil War. Now, the Russian Civil War is quite a peculiar era in history, and that's because different historians kind of quantify and measure it in different ways. If you look on different websites, there's different years from when it began to when it ended, and that's because there were so many different armies involved and even different countries. And for this reason, I'm going to really focus on the White Army, so that's like a bourgeois aristocratic army, versus the Red Army, which is obviously the army of the proletarian revolution. I just want you to know that the Russian Civil War was one of the deadliest conflicts in the 20th century. Over around 8 to 10 million people died. Okay, so tremendous amount of death and gore in this war. 2 million soldiers died, and about 8 million civilians died for a mixture of violence and famine. So it really is one of the most important events in the 20th century. The leader of the Red Army was Lev Davidovich Bronstein, also known as Leon Trotsky. Now, Trotsky was a man of great energy and charisma and organisational flair. He famously boarded a train up and down Russia to rally the Red Army troops. Now, historians do disagree, however, over how much impact he made during this war. Nonetheless, even if he wasn't a true general, he certainly did make an impact in raising the morale of the Red Army troops. And this leads us to an important comparison with the White Army leaders and generals. Okay, so the Red Army had one leader, one cause: Bolshevik revolution and maintaining that proletarian revolution. However, the White Army was divided between 4 different leaders, and they weren't very simpatico. They didn't work together very well. They had different aims, and they also didn't promise the peasantry very much, so they were denied quite crucial support. They didn't work together because all of them wanted the glory of taking Moscow or Petrograd for themselves, and they did get close to Moscow and Petrograd, but they could never move further because they didn't work together. Also, Red Army propaganda was a lot more effective. So this is the famous Red Wedge. So despite the fact that the Red Army was surrounded on all sides, there was a defiance, there was a cause which everyone could get behind. And this was much better than the divided white propaganda. As you can see, this is the Red Wedge on a map. I would pause this and have a greater look at it. The Red Bolshevik army are surrounded by all sides on the whites, but what is important was that this was the most densest population of Russia, and it had the most factories and railways and telegraph lines, whilst the rest of Russia in the countryside was much more technologically backwards in comparison. So this is a key reason for Bolshevik victory. I would also say that the role of the peasantry in the Civil War was absolutely of the highest significance, and the reason for this was because the white generals did not keep Bolshevik promises to distribute land to the peasants. So what were the peasants fighting for if they were fighting for the whites?